Hello everyone, my name is Kai and I'm making this video to demonstrate how to tie a bowline. A little background on why I can teach this knot. I was a Sea Scout for 5 years, during which time I taught sailing skills to teenagers and adults, and I've learned to tie knots from other sailors, Ashley's Book of Knots, and the Sea Scout manuals. Knowing how to tie a knot is an important skill that any adult can benefit from. It only takes a few minutes of instruction and practice to be able to memorize a skill that comes in handy quite often. Out of all the knots that I know that I could teach, the bowline is the easiest and most versatile knot for a few reasons. It can be used in many situations. It is an easy knot to learn. It is easy to undo even after placing it under immense pressure, and it is good with sustained or irregular pressure such as jostling and moving weight. One saying about knots is, if you don't know a knot, tie a lot. And hopefully after this video you will be able to say you know how to tie at least one knot. Alright, so before we get into tying a bowline, I would like to talk about the anatomy of rope. So for the purpose of this video, we have the bitter end up here, and everything else is the working end. So the bitter end is what we're going to tie the knot with, and the working end leads to whatever you're tying up, whether that be a buoy, a sail, garbage on your truck, whatever you want. So we'll start off with some basics. The simple way that's most taught for tying a bowline is you start off with a little loop, so it's just crossed over right there, and you're going to bring the bitter end back through that loop, down through the rabbit hole, around the base of the tree, and back up the rabbit hole where it came. And you're going to tighten it up. That's kind of a quick way of tying it. You'll see that the bitter end is inside of the loop. This is what you're going to tie onto, and then the rest of this will lead down to what you want tied up. Now, with the bitter end on the inside of the loop, this is called a inside bowline. Straightforward name, but it's important to know because an inside bowline is much more secure than an outside bowline. I don't want to go into that one, but just know that that's how it works. Now, I will demonstrate this one more time. You start with a little loop. You bring the working end down through the hole, around the base, and back up. Sorry if my fingers got in the way there, but the best way to tighten this is grab a hold of the bitter end in the loop and the working end and pull taut. So it should end up looking a bit like that. Now, the way that I prefer to teach the bowline is a bit easier. You start off with the same loop crossed over, but you're going to take it and you're going to roll it back on over itself down the working end. You've got the bitter end over here, so you're going to roll it down the working end and you're going to push it through. You're going to come up with a loop like that. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit so that it's nice and manageable. This is just a simple granny knot or a slip knot. Now you're going to take the working end and you're going to pass it through that knot and you're going to pull the slip knot undone. And you're going to end up with a bowline, just like that. Too simple. I'm going to show that one more time. Take your line, you've got your bitter end up here, your working end down here. You're going to fold it over, make that knot or the loop that we've talked about, roll it back over the working end, push the working end through. You don't want to make that knot too tight. You want to kind of leave it loose. You're going to take that bitter end and pass it through that loop and pull the whole knot tight. So you're going to pull the slip knot so that it pulls the bitter end through. You're going to end up with an inside bowline. If you pass the bitter end through the wrong way in the slip knot, you might end up with an outside bowline. That's okay. Just next time, pass it through the opposite direction and you should come out with a inside bowline. And that is pretty straightforward. You might want to take a few minutes to practice this. So hopefully you've taken a couple seconds to practice tying your own bowline and that you've found success. After watching this video, hopefully you've learned the anatomy of a rope, the importance of knowing how to tie a knot, and how to tie a bowline, most importantly. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, and have a great evening.